State University, the Mocombe Foundation. Okay? And here we're presenting a piece entitled The African Americanization of the Black Diaspora in Globalization, or the Contemporary Capitalist World System.
Before I get started, I'd like to express before me pay homage to my ancestors, the goddess of my country, as we done talk, the goddess of Haiti, and my wife who's here. Without her support, I wouldn't be where I am today, and all those who come before us. Okay, this paper has just been accepted to be published by the Journal of Diaspora Studies. It stems from my research in the Caribbean on the black-white academic achievement gap. My initial research is on the black-white academic achievement gap, and I wanted to look at the academic achievement gap on a global level. I wanted to, because whether black males are in Jamaica, Barbados, the UK, the United Kingdom, wherever you find black males, they're underachieving vis-a-vis their white counterparts. So I was given Fulbright to go and study the black academic achievement gap in the Eastern Caribbean. That included Grenada, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Haiti, the Caribbean, Jamaica, and Barbados, and in the UK as well. So in Jamaica, I was at Ocho Rios Secondary High School, which is in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. In Guadeloupe, they have, Guadeloupe and Martinique are part of the French department, so the education system is very French. So Grenada, English-based. So what we have are two different former colonial systems, the French and the English, and I use Haiti as my base because Haiti is totally different from the rest of the Caribbean, and we received our independence earlier than most. In doing the research, there's a phenomenon I came across as I traveled across the Eastern Caribbean as well as the Caribbean itself. And when I got into Brixton, which is in the UK, Brixton, Birmingham, UK, but two things caught my eye. I was shocked by two things. First, the younger generation, St. Lucia, I'm sorry, I completely forgot St. Lucia. When I landed, I came across many young black males and females, rims on the cars, this is in the Caribbean now, rims on the cars, gold tee, hip-hop music blasting. This is about 5 years ago. Tupac Shakur shirts. In fact, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. I thought I was in Newark. You're in St. Lucia, whether you're in Jamaica, Haiti, wherever, and the phenomenon amongst the young black males is gangster rap. And it shocked me because when I landed in Haiti and I went to Cité Soleil, which is a huge, what we call a bidonville, which is a ghetto, they were singing, they were rapping in Creole, and I was shocked. I had never heard that before, so that shocked me. Same thing, same phenomenon. Gold tee, what is that, skinny jeans? That shocked me. Now, conversely, among the older generation, what I found was many of them were watching, I bypass it. There's in Jamaica, St. Lucia, the English Caribbean, the French Caribbean, wherever you are in the Caribbean, there's not too many television stations. There's only one television station that's on 24/7 in the Caribbean. Whether you stay in a resort, wherever you may be, it's BET. BET is on 24/7. Whether you're in Jamaica, Haiti, Eastern Caribbean, it's always on. Anyway, among the older generation, what I found was many of them watched T.D. Jakes. They were into the church. In Haiti, there was a big movement. I was in Haiti after the earthquake. There was a big fundamentalist movement in Haiti. Many black Christian churches were arriving, and I had a problem with that, but I digress. So I wanted to understand this two phenomenon. Among the older generation, they were being heavily influenced by people like Juanita Bynum, especially in the English Caribbean. That was big. Juanita Bynum, buying CDs, watching Creflo Dollar was big. T.D. Jakes, what's the other brother out of Atlanta? That was caught in the sex scandal. Very big among the older generation. Among the younger generation, they're more into the athletes, they're more into the hip-hop culture. So I wanted to understand these two phenomena, and I wanted to understand it theoretically, because for me, this is an issue of agency. This is, because we want to speak about what is, it's not only an issue of agency, but it's an issue of identity, because we want to speak about black identity as though this sui generis notion of black identity that exists, especially in Afrocentric black identity, especially during the 90s. So I wanted to understand what was happening in the Caribbean, because it seems as though the older generation, they were being appealed to by the fundamentalist conservative branch of black Christianity, and in the younger generation, they were being mesmerized by black hip-hop identity. For them, that was black identity. Hip-hop culture, Tupac, Biggie Smalls, the black athletes, the tattoos. I had never seen, I grew up in the Caribbean, and having a tattoo was sacrilege. That was the biggest sin you can commit in the Haitian household, is to have a tattoo. And that is now a big phenomenon. And so I wanted to understand this issue, what is going on. And the only way I could understand this dialectically within the capitalist social structure under American hegemony. So it's an attempt for me to synthesize in my own research to understand this issue of identity constitution, this issue of agency, social agency. I couldn't rely on the old traditional notions of identity constitution. So, for example, Habermas, people like social theorists such as Habermas, Anthony Giddens, and others, their notions of structurationism did not do it for me. So for me, I went old school. In my own writings, I try to synthesize quantum mechanics. I'm into physics. I try to synthesize the materialism of quantum mechanics with Wittgenstein's notion of philosophical investigations, his notion of language games, with Karl Marx's notion of class consciousness. Because for me, this issue was a class issue that is impacting the Caribbean. But what I argue essentially in the paper is that what happened in black America is that, yes, there's the notion that even Bell Hooks wants to rely on postmodern notions and post-structural notions of identity constitution, which I have a problem with, because with Derrida and Foucault, the notion of the decentered subject this notion of the deferment of meaning and ego-centered communicative discourse, the problem is they fail to realize that the decentered subject takes place within relations of production. You know, there are ideological forces in place. There are institutions in place that prevent certain meanings from arising. No, not all meanings are allowed to, yes, theoretically, Foucault and Derrida, especially Derrida's notion of difference. Derrida is correct that this notion that there is this notion of the deferment of meaning that takes place. Yes, he's right, but that doesn't take place in a vacuum. It takes place within relations of production, as Althusser was trying to point to when he tries to synthesize phenomenology with Marxist. I know that's high theory, I'm sorry. I understand that. So what I had to do was to synthesize Wittgenstein with Marx and as well as Althusser to understand what is happening both in black America and what is happening in the Caribbean. Because what happened is, and you can trace this, if you look at T.D. Jakes, the message of Jakes, as I argue, the message of Jakes, Creflo Dollar, Juanita Bynum, it's no different from the black, what we call the black, Douglas Massey calls the black underclass in black America. What is that? if you do an analysis of Black urban America, their aim is what? Economic gain, status, no different from the prosperity gospel preached by Jakes, Bynum, and all of these others. So why is their patriarchy, misogyny in the church different from the patriarchy and misogyny of Black urban America? And I think Michael Eric Dyson does a great point of highlighting the contradictions there. But in the same breath, there is the class consciousness among the Black, what I call the Black, what E. Franklin Frazier calls the Black bourgeoisie of the Black church. It's the same as the social agency of the young urban Black male and Black female. They want the same thing, the same ideology. And Marx is right, Althusser is right, the ideological, the social space, we don't have room within the social space to allow for any other means of expression outside of class consciousness. That being said, within the theoretical logic that it is within these two classes, a Black urban class and a Black bourgeois class living in the suburbs in America, preaching the same philosophy within which Black consciousness is being determined in the Caribbean and Africa. And I'm sorry, I forgot to include South Africa in my, I've also did research with Prudence Carter on this notion of looking at South Africa as well. Excuse me. So it is within this class dynamic that Black consciousness is being determined in the diaspora. Why? Because number one, the images, the dominant images of Blackness that is being disseminated in the Caribbean and Africa, as well as the Eastern Caribbean, is this image of either the athlete or the preacher. Mm-hmm. Those are the two dominant images, even on BET. If you turn on BET Sunday morning, those are the dominant images you have of Blackness in the Caribbean. So, whereas, and this also had me thinking, because one of the major issues, and Haiti is facing this issue currently, and this is how prevalent it is. The current administration in Haiti, their economic model for development is as such. Under Duvalier, well, prior to Duvalier, when America occupied Haiti from 1915 to 1934, they attempted to, this is the economic model America attempted to impose on the island, in both Haiti and the Dominican Republic. They brought in tourism, they brought in cheap manufacturing, baseballs, etc., and they brought sports. The Dominican Republic picked up on baseball. They tried to build baseball fields in Haiti. The Haitians did not pick up on it, but the Dominicans did. Well, here's the current development model produced by Bill Clinton and some Oxford intellectuals for Haiti. Tourism, manufacturing. Guess what sport they're trying to impose on Haiti contemporarily? Basketball. So they're going around throughout the island building basketball courts. So it's problematic because, and then the dominant images in Haiti, recently they had a conference where they brought in Haitian basketball athletes, and they're looking to form a Haitian basketball league, and just as they did with baseball in the Caribbean. So what I argue in this paper is that what's happening in the Caribbean is that the dominant images of Blackness is the athlete, the preacher, the church as ideological apparatus, the streets, and athletics as an ideology. Remember, in the logic of Althusser, the streets, hip-hop culture, athletics are ideological apparatuses. The basketball field, the basketball court, and the football field are ideological apparatuses. You become institutionalized. You become, remember, the Black athlete becomes part of the process. They become part of the elite once they quote-unquote make it. They're the dominant images that's being disseminated throughout the Caribbean, Africa. So now we have young Blacks looking, especially the Black women, and it's strange, even in the UK, Black women tend to do better than Black males academically. But they're more likely to attend church. They're more likely to look through education as a means to economic gain, status, and social mobility. whereas the black male looks to the street, rapping, athletics as the means to economic gain, status, and social mobility. And I call this process the African Americanization of the black diaspora because it's coming out of America. Whereas in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, many of our civil rights leaders came from the Caribbean. Now it's the reverse. The images of blackness, etc., is being imposed. The images of blackness is being superimposed via the media, and especially the media industrial complex within America. It's being blacks in the Caribbean, South Africa, the UK, wherever you find black people, being dominated by images as athletes, hip hop, rappers, etc., and churchgoers. So I will end on that.
We've got a lot to